worse than what we were hoping, right? So it's interesting because the church is one of those places that is known to have fights. It's one of those places that is known to have major disagreements and issues. And as a matter of fact, it's one of the things that turns unbelievers off to the church. We fight over some of the stupidest things. We fight over the color of the carpet. We fight over whether or not somebody should have a drink in the sanctuary, in the family room. We fight over whether or not there should be drums allowed. We fight over the color of the paint. We fight over the color of a majority of, I mean, it's crazy, the stuff that we fight over. You know, I was listening to somebody not too long ago. There was an old church. They've been around for forever. And they had this huge church meal once a year. That's the only time that they ever had it, was just once a year. And there was one older lady in the church that always brought the ham. Always. That was her job. She had to bring the ham. And it was always a big ham, and she knew how to cook it really well. It was incredible. And so they got there one year, and all of a sudden, she comes to bring her ham in, and she was a big donor, too. She was a huge donor. You ever notice how the people with the most money in the church usually are the ones who get what they want? So, it's crazy how that happens. For those who have a lot of money to give, unfortunately, we're not that kind of a church. So, we don't need your money. God takes care of us. So, we don't kowtow or bow down to anybody around here for money. But she brought that ham in, and she went to go set it in the place that she always sets her ham. And lo and behold, there was another ham. She took her ham, she put it in her car, and she left. And took half the church with her. Isn't that crazy? You know, there's a couple of churches in the area here in Sumter that have been known for fighting. It's nuts. One of the buildings that I went to go look at not too long ago, before we got this building, so about 2.5 years ago, I was looking at several different buildings and locations, and I went to one that's within 5 minutes of here. And I went to the building, and I looked around, and it was a nice building. I'm glad we didn't get it, because it would definitely not have fit us for very long. Just like this one doesn't fit us anymore, but that one was not been done well, so God knew what he was doing. But I went and I talked with the owner of it, or one of the owners. He looked at me and he goes, "What are you planning on doing with the building?" I said, "Well, I'd like to put a church in it. I'd like to put a church in it." And he said, "Not in my building, you want?" And I was like, "Well, why not?" He said, "Because I just had a church in there." I was like, "Really?" I was like, "Well, what happened?" He said, "Well, they ended up, they moved out, and when they moved out, apparently they had some kind of a board meeting, and they had a fight, and there were holes in the walls, and glass was broken, and toilets were ripped up, and sinks were broken off of the walls." He said it was a knockdown drag-out. He said the cops had to get called out there. And I said, "At a church meeting?" And he was like, "Yep, at a church meeting." He said, "So a church will never, ever rent from me again." And I was like, wow. Well, that sucks. I'm sorry that you had that kind of a situation. I was reading an article the other day about a church. The pastor, they were having a vote of confidence for the pastor. Well, half the church wanted him gone, the other half wanted him to stay. Well, the board meeting ended up with the police being called. They were fighting, brawling. Several of them got locked up. Law enforcement couldn't figure out who had started the fight, so everybody had to get let go. And at the end of everything was said and done, they still hadn't decided whether they were going to keep the pastor or not. They had to have another meeting. So, we know that wasn't going to work out very well, right? So, got some funny stories I want to tell. If y'all can bear with me. Y'all do that?
Yeah.
Y'all ever heard the "and then the fight started"? Anybody ever heard any of those? Yep. Sure is. Got one. When I got home late last night, my wife demanded that I take her someplace expensive. So I took her to the gas station, and then the fight started. I was sitting down flipping through channels on the television. My wife sat down next to me and said, "Hey, what's on the television?" I said, "The dust." And the fight started.
Come on.
My wife was hinting about what she wanted for our upcoming anniversary. She said, "I want something shiny that goes from 0 to 150 in 3 seconds." I bought her a scale. Then the fight started. Try it. You get in trouble. There's some other ones in here that are pretty funny too, but I'm not into those. That one's just hateful. That one's mean. That one will really start a fight. Can't do that one. Let's go away from that. I'll send you the link later. Old gentleman was sitting on a train, getting ready to go somewhere. Two ladies were sitting there with him, sitting right next to a window, and they were fighting. One of them was hot; she wanted the window open. The other one said she was cold and it couldn't be open. She said, "If you open that window, I'm going to catch pneumonia and die." The other one said, "If you don't open that window, I'm going to get a heat stroke and die." Another old man on the train said, "Can somebody do us all a favor? Open the window for a little while, let that one die of pneumonia, and then shut it and let that one die of heat stroke so we can ride in peace." An incorrect and a correct way to handle every issue, right? Anybody ever feel like whenever you get ready to walk into a situation, you know before you walk into it that there's going to be a fight? Anybody ever had that experience?
Yeah.
You know that before you even enter the building, before you even enter the house, there's going to be a fight. And usually whenever it's somebody that we don't really like all that much, we're geared up for it, we're ready for it. Anybody ever walk into a building saying, "Okay, there's going to be a fight," and you walked in there with your head held high and your shoulders back like, "All right, we're going to do this thing." Anybody ever done that? Or is it just me? Just me? I'm the only one that said, "All right, there's going to be a fight today, let's go."
Small men do it all the time.
Do they?
Everywhere.
Everywhere?
Yes.
That's how, yeah, you're right. I've seen it. Little man mentality. They jump out ready to go. Reminds me of another joke.
Can't laugh.
Can't laugh too much this morning? Well, this guy got into a wreck, right? Rear-ended this other guy at a stoplight. All of a sudden, the one in front of him jumped out. It was a midget. Little small man, he jumps out, about the size of a dwarf. Well, he comes up to him, stomped up to him and said, "I am not happy." "Well, which one are you?" Then the fight started. That one was not politically correct. I'm going to get in trouble for that. They prefer little people. So, y'all got to laugh here. Y'all are like serious this morning for some reason. Is everybody still tired? Everybody's still kind of tired.
I slept good.
Awesome. I'm glad you did. You suck. Had a golden shift at work. So fighting is a part of our everyday lives, unfortunately. Whether it's with coworkers, whether it's at church, whether it's with people that we don't like, whether it's with people that we love, we always tend to end up in some kind of a fight. We tend to end up in some kind of an argument. And one of the things, in order to do this, and like I said, this is going to be a 3-week series, so we're going to navigate some of these things over the next couple of weeks. Next week, we're going to learn how to fight, okay? And we're going to learn how to fight with people that we love, and we're going to learn how to fight with people that we don't love. We're going to learn the following week how we're supposed to fight within the church, okay? Because there's a correct way and an incorrect way to fight inside the church. There's a correct way and an incorrect way to fight with your leadership inside the church, okay? And so the next 3 weeks, that's what we're going to be focusing on. But today, what I want us to do is I want us to let's understand that fighting is a natural part of life. And one of the issues within the church, okay, is the church has this mentality that fighting is wrong. They have this mentality that to fight is sinful. It's not, okay? It's not. Conflict itself is not the sinful thing. Conflict itself can actually be very beneficial if it's done correctly, okay? And so what's happening within the church is we have this facade of everybody's got to like everybody. Nobody can be at odds, and there's no such, you can't have confrontation within the church. You can't have conflict within the church. And what's happening is you're getting stepped all over, and you're getting stepped all over, and you're getting stepped all over, and you're getting bitter, and you're getting upset, and there's all of these emotions that are going around on the inside, and instead of you growing from it, instead of you learning from it, you just get bitter and angry and upset, and you lash out, or you just quit coming altogether. Or you start talking with other people about the issue, and you start to spread those issues amongst the church, and your issue has now become a cancer within the church. Or it's now become a cancer within the workplace. Or it's become a cancer within your school. Or it's become a cancer within your family. Your issue has become a problem with everybody because you didn't know how to handle it biblically. And you simply, instead of actually confronting the issue, you stuffed it inside and said, no, we can't deal with this. And the church has gone so long telling people, you can't have conflict or you can't have confrontation, you've got to learn how to get over it, that we're really good at hiding it for a season. We're good at hiding our issues for a while until all of a sudden we can't handle it anymore and we explode. Anybody ever been in a relationship with somebody, you thought everything was going along smooth and you thought everything was going along great, and then all of a sudden they just exploded. You know, it's like you walked into a room with dynamite and it went off. And you're like, whoa, what just happened? Anybody ever experienced that? You're like, well, that just caught me off guard from left field. Like, what is your problem? You know? What is your issue? Well, most of the time, there's never one big issue. You ever had an argument with somebody like, what is your problem with me? And they look at you and say, well, I don't know. It's because they don't know. They have no idea. Because they have repressed and pushed all of the little issues down to the point that they have no idea. And it's the little issues that have added up, and it's never really a big issue. Because when we have a major issue with somebody, we avoid them. We don't do anything with them. That's human nature. If I have a major issue with you, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to hang out with you. I'm not going to come around where I know you're going to be. We hide from those people. So major issues are never a problem. It's the little issues. Because then when it finally comes to the surface and I look at you and I say, what is wrong? What have I done? And you're like, well, I don't know. I don't know what you've done. I just know that I'm upset. I just know that I'm frustrated. I just know that I'm angry. I have no way to verbalize what's going on the inside because I've repressed it so much. Whereas if we would simply learn that, guess what? Small issues become large issues. I've got to deal with it at that point. I've got to deal with it the moment that I get upset or frustrated. I can't hide it. Okay? So, Mike, you say something to me and it hurts my feelings. I don't push that thing down and say, you know what, maybe Mike's having a bad day. Maybe Mike's having a bad day. So I'm just going to let it slide. No, you hurt my feelings. I'm going to tell you, Mike, you know what? That really hurt my feelings, man. I'm not going to hide it from you. If I hide it from you, what happens? It builds. The next time he hurts my feelings, I'm like, ooh, this is becoming a habit. Then you do it again, it's like, well, he just really doesn't care how I feel, does he? He has no idea how I feel because I never said anything.
Right.
He has no idea. There are individuals who like to joke, who like to pick. Okay? They like to joke, and they like to pick, and they like to mess around. I'm one of them. I love joking. I love picking with somebody. Look, I'll pick at you until you're raw. That's just the way I am. The moment you tell me, though, stop, guess what? I'm going to stop. Or the moment that I see it's bothering you, I'm going to stop. And I'm going to do my best not to do it again. And that's only because I've learned to watch people. Most people aren't like that. Most people can't read another person. They have no idea that what they just said hurt you. They have no idea that what they just said was offensive. They don't know. They're wrapped up in themselves. That's it. You ever been in a situation where somebody said something to you and it really hurts you, and you don't want to go say anything to them because you're like, well, they ought to know what they said. They should know that it offended me. No, they don't. They have no idea that they offended you. Why? Because they're wrapped up in themselves. They have no idea. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. But the church has taught us for so long that confrontation is evil. And it's not evil. Conflict can be a good thing. Let's take a look at a passage of Scripture in Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17, where it tells us, iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. Anybody in here ever been a outdoors kind of person? Any of y'all in here ever had to hand sharpen an axe?
Yes.
Me?
This is a pain in the butt. If you don't know what you're doing, it's a pain in the butt. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do it.
Or you don't have the tool.
Okay? You can do a push file. Y'all get that? That's not that bad.
That's not nice.
And I spent some time sharpening this one last night. The scripture tells us that iron sharpens iron.
That's all.
Okay? Iron sharpens iron. Metal on metal. It starts to sharpen it. Isn't that annoying? You can do it like that, or you can put the sucker in a vise. You can put the sucker in a vise, and you can actually take this and do a draw sharpen, to where you take this file and you can really grind down into it good and pull it back to you. I'm not going to do it right now because I don't have anything to hold it. It'll slice my finger off because I sharpened this thing pretty good last night. But you can put that in a vise, and you can take this file and you can bear down on it and you can pull it towards yourself. And you can really sharpen it good. And it brings a lot of metal off of it. A lot of metal. This way, it's just a little bit. We all have those kind of people in our lives, right? We have those people in our lives that's just a little bit at a time, right? And those are the people that really irritate us. Because those are the people that we can't seem to get away from. We tend to stay away from the people that pull the big chunks off of us, like our pastors. We try to stay away from them, unless we absolutely have to go to them. But these are the ones that are irritating. Anybody tired of hearing that?
Yes.
So iron sharpens iron.
Be careful, Marcus.
Anybody ever done this for a long time?
Yeah.
You do it for a long time, what happens to the metal?
Good straight shoulder.
You cut your finger, but what happens to it? What else can happen to it? It can get hot. Why? Because of the abrasive effect of the metal on metal. Friction. Conflict. Confrontation. Iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. Biblically speaking, when we look at conflict, we have to change the way we look at it. We have looked at conflict and confrontation as a bad thing, and it's not. Conflict and confrontation within the church can be a very good thing. Conflict and confrontation within our families can be a very good thing, as long as we approach it biblically. As long as we approach it with the understanding that I'm about to go into conflict with this individual so that I can become a better person. It's all in our perception. It's all in how we understand conflict. It's all in how we understand a good fight. If my point in arguing with you is to prove myself correct, I'm going into the argument wrong. If my point of confronting you is to prove that you're wrong, my heart is in the wrong place. You see, conflict and confrontation should have a purpose. If the only purpose is destruction, it's not it's not a good thing. But if the point of conflict and confrontation is constructive, you see, I can take this and I can very quickly dull this axe. All it takes is a few good strokes this way. I'm watching it. It's destructive. Now, is this friction? Is it abrasive? It is. Am I sharpening or am I dulling? I'm dulling. And that's going to take me 30 minutes to fix.
Some good stuff.
Now, iron should be sharpening iron. we as people should be sharpening people. The purpose for my conflict, the purpose for my confrontation is priority is what? Making myself a better person. A lot of people go into a conflict with the intention of making the other person a better person. Let's look at it this way. When I confront you, and Mike, I'm picking on you a lot today for some reason. I have no idea why. When I confront you, I want you to be the file. And I want to be the axe. See, far too often we approach confrontation, I want to be the file, and you're the axe. No. I need to be the axe, and you need to be the file. And we'll get into that a little bit more next week as far as the correct way to confront somebody whenever there's an issue. But I wanted us this morning to look at the fact that confrontation and fighting is not always bad. There are benefits to it. There are healthy benefits to it to make me a better person. In order to do this, in order to understand this, we have to understand that God's way is not our way. God's way is not our way. Matter of fact, Isaiah chapter 55, verse 8 says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my way, declares the Lord." You see, we've always, again, gone into a confrontation and a conflict with the understanding that I'm going in to prove myself correct. I go into this fight with an understanding that I'm going to win. That's not God's way of doing this. There's a different method. There's a different understanding. Just as I pointed out a second ago, when we go into a fight, we have to go into a fight with the understanding that I am the axe and you are the file. I'm going into the fight so that I can become a better person. I'm going into the fight so that I can learn something. I'm going into the fight so that when I come out on the other end, I've got more wisdom. I've become the kind of individual that I need to become. I look at confrontation as a way of me becoming more mature. Most of the time we keep our confrontations on a petty level. And it's because we approach it with pettiness instead of maturity. We approach it with the, I'm going to make sure that I win. And that's our goal. If your goal is to win, you're petty. If your goal is to grow, that's maturity. God's way is not our way. God does everything differently than we do. And we have to understand that, and we have to comprehend that in order to fight well. If we want a healthy fight, we have to do it God's way, not our way. We have to understand that when we go into this, God desires restoration. He's a God that desires restoration. That's what he does. That was one of the reasons that Jesus died on the cross, was to restore us to the point that we were prior to the fall. Everything that God does in our life, everything that God wants to do in our life, always has restoration as the main point. And when we go into a fight, we have to go into the fight with restoration as the main point. I don't enter into a conflict or a confrontation with the desire to push you away. We have to go into a confrontation with the desire to draw you close, not push you away. It doesn't matter what they've done to us. It doesn't matter what they've said about us. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. Why? Because God's way is not our way. Our natural desire when we enter into a fight is to hurt you. It's to hurt you and it's to push you away so that you and I don't ever have to interact again. Or if we do interact, you understand your place.
Right.
Whereas God's way is restoration. Confrontation has a purpose. Iron sharpens iron as one man sharpens another. We go into a fight with the desire to be drawn closer together, not pushed further apart. We have to change our entire paradigm, the way we think, the way we operate, the way we function. Fighting is healthy when we understand that it brings restoration when done correctly. And I'll go ahead and I'll add on a little point. It takes two people to fight correctly.
That's right.
And we'll learn a little bit more about that next week. It takes two people to fight correctly. And if you enter into it correctly, and they come at it incorrectly, back out. Back out quickly. Because all you're doing is asking to be hurt.
Yep.
It takes two to fight correctly. But God desires restoration. As a matter of fact, he likes it so much. Matthew chapter 5, verse 23 to 24 says, "So if you are offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother, then come and offer your gift." Restoration and friendship and all of this was so important to Jesus that he says this, that he says, look, if you're bringing an offering to me, no matter what it is, if it's your time, if it's your worship, if it's your money, whatever it is, if you're desiring to bring that and present it to me, if you remember that your brother has something against you, I don't want your offering. It's more important to me that you go and fix that first. Now, this doesn't say if I have something against my brother. Because that's an excuse a lot of people use. They like to use that as a loophole. And they'll say, well, you know what? I don't have a problem with them. And they got one with me, but that's on them. No, that's not what Jesus said. If you remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift at the altar. Go fix it. Then come back. That's how important restoration is to Christ. So important that he puts your relationships with other people before your relationship with him. Strange. It's not what the church usually teaches, is it? The church usually teaches, well, you know what? I'm good with God, so whatever their issue is, that's on them. So, or, you know what? Me and them might not be at peace, but I'm at peace with Jesus, so we're good. No, you're not. No, you're not. As a matter of fact, anything that you offer to him at that point is rejected. How many times have we said we're good with Jesus, knowing that our brother or sister has something against us, and we've never tried to correct it? Anything that we've offered him during that time is considered to be a dead work. He's refused it. It doesn't go into your spiritual bank account. Instead, it sits at the altar and he says, that stinks. I'd much rather they invested that time into restoring that relationship. Why? Doesn't Jesus know that when my brother has something against me, if I go to them, there's going to be a fight? Right? There's going to be confrontation. There's going to be friction. There's going to be an issue. And right now my life is going great. I don't want that issue. I removed that person for a reason. And you're telling me that I've got to try and restore it? I've got to try and go back and fix this thing? Walter, this isn't the easy Christianity that I like. Trust me, I don't either. When I sit there and realize that I've done something that has offended somebody and I have to go back to them and I have to say, look, I'm sorry, I need you to forgive me. Listen, that's a humbling experience. That goes against everything inside of me. Everything in me screams out, you good with God is okay. You ain't got to be good with everybody else. You see, the mentality of the church is so twisted right now that we hide behind a false peace. And we say, I'll keep the ones I'm good with close. The ones I have issue with, I'll push them away. Because I want to keep peace. We call that being a peacemaker, right? They can sit on their side of the church and I'll sit on my side of the church and we'll be okay. Or when we go to family outings, they can do their thing and we'll do our thing. Or when there's a place of employment, a business meeting, you know what, I'll just go to the meeting, I'll just keep my mouth shut. I'll just keep my mouth shut, I won't say anything because I'm not going to be the one that starts the fight. I know. My coworkers know I'll start one quick. I'll start one in a heartbeat, especially at a business meeting. They hate going to them with me. I've had several of them ask me, hey, which IST are you going? I'm going to the other. We've got to stop being scared of confrontation. We've got to stop being scared of a fight. Because what has happened is it has cut us off at the knees and we've become a very weak church. We've become a church that rolls over and plays dead to anybody who disagrees with us. We've become a church who rolls over and plays dead to anybody whose feelings we might have hurt. We bow down to the politically correct beliefs because we're a church that wants to keep the peace. Instead of understanding that there are times that we are called to go and fight. There are times that we are called to confront the issue and to confront the issue head on. With the understanding, I'm the axe, you're the file, sharpen. I've had messages that I didn't want to preach. I've had messages that I've known were going to be abrasive and that I've known were going to cause some pain. One of the last messages that I did, one of the last things that I discussed, a big topic within the church not too long ago, homosexuality. I actually went to a friend of mine who was a homosexual, presented it to him. Hey, critique me. How can I do this in a way that's going to be loving? How can I do this in a way that's going to tell people you're important to me? And some of the things he told me I didn't like, but I learned from. Why? Because we have to understand that when we go into a fight, when we go into confrontation, we go into it with an understanding that I need to grow. I need to become the better person. You see, we've stopped fighting. We've stopped arguing. And now we're just a church full of a bunch of hurt, whiny toppers. That's what we are. You hurt my feelings. I don't want to talk with you anymore. I don't want to do anything with you anymore. As a matter of fact, you've hurt my feelings. I'm going to go to another church. Or, tell you what, why don't you go to the 11 o'clock service and I'll go to the 9 o'clock service and we don't have to see each other.
Uh-oh. Well.
Why? Why? Because we've been taught that all confrontation is wrong. And it's not. It's not. When it's done correctly, it's a beautiful thing. And next week we're going to look at how we do that with people. We're going to look at where does confrontation come from? Where do our issues really truly come from? I'll give you a hint. It's not from the other person. They're not the issue. Well, you don't know what they said. I don't care what they said. They're not the issue. And we're going to look at why that is. We're going to look at what we can do as people, as children of God, to correct those issues. You see, you and I can get into a fight, Mike. And no, you could say whatever you wanted to say about me. You could call me whatever you wanted to call me. Guess what? I'm not going to be offended. I've had some people call me some pretty insane things. Alyssa's a witness to that. Guess what? It doesn't hurt my feelings. It doesn't change my mentality or my perception of anything about myself. And next week we're going to take a look at how you can do that as well. We're going to look at biblical restoration. We're going to look at how to fight healthy, how to fight holy. We're going to look at how we approach it, what we need to do before we approach a fight, what we do when we're in the fight, and how we come out of the fight. Because God has a lot to say about it. He has a lot to say about how we treat each other. He has a lot to say about how he wants us to treat each other, how he wants us to view each other. And it's not the way that we would normally do it. Because God's way is not our way. His way seems a whole lot harder. However, his way brings about the most healing. His way brings about the most restoration. Why? Because he's pretty cool and knows what he's doing. Amen? Feels like a guy can't get in here. Like everybody's like, can we just hurry up and get the next week, please?
Oh, we can fix that.
Next week, we'll take that away from you. But guys, don't be one of those people that believes, if I'm not arguing with you, we're good. Don't be one of those people that think, I'll just let them have their life and I'll have my life. Now, if they've pushed you out of their life completely, if you've done what you could do to fix it, that's all you could do. Move on. You attempt reconciliation. Remember, it takes two people to fight correctly. It takes two. So if you've done your part, don't condemn yourself. I've got people that I fight with on a continual basis. I've also got people that I have fought with and I've tried to fight biblically with who have told me they want nothing to do with me anymore. Guess what? They haven't seen nor heard from me. They refuse to work it out. But I have to be willing to try. Okay? So remember that. Conflict can be beneficial. God's way is not our way. And God desires restoration. If they kick you out, you back up and just pray for them. Pray for them. Ask that God blesses them beyond their wildest imagination. Ask that God blesses them so much that it's frustrating to them. There's a passage of scripture about that. We'll talk about it next week. When you bless those people that frustrate you, it does something on the inside of them. It's actually kind of a sick twist of vengeance, but it's fun. So next week we'll take a look at that. Reverend Gary, will you close out prayer this morning?
Lord, thank you for this awesome day. Thank you for this word this morning. Lord, I pray that each and every one of us go to services and get something from it, Lord, and using it in our lives each and every day. Lord, bless those that are leaving now, God. Watch over them as they go home or wherever they need to go. And watch over those that are coming to the next service. Keep them safe. Lord, we pray and ask and thank you.